All right. Well, welcome to this meeting of the California Board of Legal Specialization. Mark, do you want to
Okay.
start us off?
So it says here we start with the roll call. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's call it to order. And if we can, as a reminder for everybody who's present in the Zoom meeting, it's like a regular in-person meeting of the CBLS and is recorded and will be archived on the State Bar's website for future reference. The CBLS will take items on the agenda in the order in which they appear, and votes for any items will be taken by roll call. And with that, why don't we do the roll call?
Costa,
Present.
Hammerschmidt,
Present.
Hershenson, Lester,
Present?
Levy,
Present.
Vance, Yoon. Roll call complete.
Okay, so I think that means that for quorum for voting purposes, we're short one, and hopefully either Natalie or Mr. Yoon will join us here shortly and come on board. This is the point where we call for public comment. I note that if we're looking down here on our participants list, it doesn't seem that we have any public members coming in to give us any comments for today. So I guess we don't need all the thumbs up and raise your hand and all that kind of stuff. If anybody joins us, we'll come back to this. Staff will call any of those members in the order they've got. And so those are all the rules that we don't need to review until we get a public member to come on in. With that, I think we go to staff reports.
Great. I think that's me. So right? Yeah.
Right. Audrey, back to you.
Back to me, Mark. So we are recruiting for a vacant program specialist position to join the team. We had a team member at our last meeting who was doing a T&D opportunity, a training and development opportunity, but that's ended. So now we are actively interviewing. Adrian and I have interviewed maybe 5 people so far. So hopefully by our next meeting, we'll have an update on a new staff member. Also interviewing for Adrian's old position as program analyst, because now he is program supervisor. So that's our staffing update. And we have new member orientation, those slides to go through next. I don't know if we want to wait or skip it for now until the new member might be on.
Well, yeah, Ryan, why don't we hop over that item and then we can come back to it when Mr. Yoon joins us.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so I'll skip to some recent developments. Well, we talked at the last meeting about how the State Bar is kind of working through COVID-19 and our operations. And I think the bar's done a really good job about we're trying to limit people in the office to 20% on any day. Most of us have the ability to, if we need to, work 5 days a week from home. We've recently had to go through all the different staffing plans because now the governor obviously has a different regional stay-at-home order triggered by ICU bed percentages. I think I have that right. So, but for us, the changes were pretty small because everyone was pretty, in this group anyway, was maximum going into the office only 1 day a week. Our operations are still what we call, full operations. We still are doing all the normal operational things we need to do as a staff. It's just mostly being done remotely. Between the last meeting and today, we actually administered 2 exams. One was the July California bar exam, which of course was moved to October 5th and 6th. So in the end, between we had 6 in-person sites for accommodated applicants and applicants who said they had extenuating circumstances where they couldn't test remotely in their own homes. They needed a room because of Wi-Fi or a quiet place to test. So between online and those in-person hotel sites, we had 9,301 full, complete test takers. So people who started the exam and ended the exam and took all the sessions. So we did have some no-shows and some partial takers, but the total who completed the exam was 9,301. 8,920 of those were online. So that's a vast majority of our applicants, our test takers for the bar exam were online for the first time ever. And for the most part, over 97% of them were able to get in and out of the exam with no problems at all. So it wasn't.
How many took it online of the 9,000?
8,920.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. For the first time. And that was, yeah, most, I would say that's most. Yeah, took it online and for the most part had a relatively seamless experience. There were, of course, support issues that happened during the exam. We were able to resolve most of them and they were able to get in and take the test. So there's lots of lessons that we learned. We have the February bar exam in February, 23rd and 24th of February, really on the heels of that exam. So typically, of course, between July and February, we have several months of prep time. But between October and February, that time horizon is much shorter. But we have learned a lot about remote exams, about how remote exams work with our software vendor, ExamSoft. We're putting out a lot more communication to applicants far in advance about the right requirements they need for their laptops and how the video proctoring is going to work and where they need to, how they need to have that functioning webcam and have the audio, make sure that's functioning, and lots of lessons learned. But in terms of all the holding our breath we were doing for the actual administration in October, it really went, I think we are all comfortable saying it was successful in the end. So that was something very, very big that's happened since our last meeting. We also gave the baby bar in November. So the Supreme Court, because of all the changes, we typically have the first year law students exam, the baby bar, in June and October, but we were giving the bar exam in October, so we gave the baby bar in November. We had 309 applicants online taking the test for that exam, and only 7 came to either the SF or the LA office to take it in person. So again, the vast majority online, and virtually no support calls out of those 309 test takers. They had a good experience taking the exam online.
Are we finding from this remote methodology that the exam grading is going faster as well?
Well, we're trying to expedite the grading. So we've done things on our end to grade more quickly because of how on the heels the February exam is. I don't know, Amy, if you think it's anything. I think if the delivery out and the being virtual with the graders is any faster, I'm not sure.
Well, we gained some time in the grading process by moving to electronic version. So previously, we used to have these printed books that we would provide, and people would come and pick up their books and take them home and deliver them and so on. And so that that whole process is eliminated, and that has saved plenty of time and trees. And so people are able to access, their exam booklets from home. But the other thing that's changed in this round, and it's a change that was implemented by the Committee of Bar Examiners, there used to be 3 rounds of 3 phases of grading. There was the initial phase, a second review, and then this kind of remediation when there was a discrepancy between the first and second review. After some analysis that was conducted by our psychometrician, he made recommendations as to how we can gain efficiencies, and that's definitely helping us in this round. So this is a first round that we're moving to a two-phase grading, but on top of that, we had to work around the fact that the cut score changed by 50 points. So previously, if you had a score that was 50 points under 1440, you moved to a second phase of grading, a second review. Now we're working with 1390 as our cut score and moving beyond that, below that. And that's definitely helped a bit, because one of the things that we discovered by our psychometrician is the fact that our third phase of grading impacted a very small proportion of applicants. And so, that small proportion of applicants held back the grading for, in this case, almost 9,000 people. So I think the electronic filing system, or the electronic system, and the two phases of grading are helping us. One of the metrics that we have and that we need to report to the board on a quarterly basis is we're measuring how long it's taking us to grade. So typically for a July bar exam, it takes us 16 weeks. And for a February bar exam, it takes us 12 weeks. And we're trying to shave 2 weeks off of that. So we're trying to move to a 14-week grading process for July and a 10-week for February. And so, yeah, as Audrey's noted, we are moving in the right direction.
And I assume that's going to then translate on over to the legal specialization exam, which we'll be giving this year.
Yes, I think that is up for discussion in one of the agenda items. But yes, it's looking at that, the remote modality, and then what that would mean, also the implication it has on grading.
Okay, great, thanks.
Sure.
Hey, good morning. Natalie is here. I was having technical difficulties, but Janelle just got me in, so I'm here.
Yay, now we have a quorum.
Now
Thank you, Natalie.
Okay, we can do business.
Nice to see you, Natalie. Just going over some updates about the exams that have transpired on the admissions end since we last met. But I think that was the end of my update. We do have, again, that February 23rd and 24th is the next exam. The Supreme Court on November 19th did give us direction that will be remote as well. We will still be making, of course, in-person space for accommodated applicants and for those who say they need to have a quiet place to test, or they don't have the resources to have a remote testing environment in their home that's suitable. And so far we have 2,234 applications for that exam. I will turn it over to Amy for a really exciting development if you haven't been completely following everything with the bar, but on provisional licensure.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our provisional licensing program. In July of this year, in response to the COVID epidemic, the California Supreme Court directed the State Bar to develop and implement a temporary supervised provisional licensure program. And this is a limited license to practice California law under the supervision of a licensed attorney. And this might be of interest to legal specialists because it's a really good opportunity for support in the legal arena. So what the program does is it allows 2020 law school graduates to practice law. And just to be clear, when we say 2020 law school graduates, we're referring to those who have graduated between December 2019 and December 2020. And so if they meet certain eligibility criteria, and I'll tell you what that is, they can work as attorneys under the supervision of a fully licensed California attorney. So applicants must meet most licensing requirements, and the exceptions are as follows. They don't have to have passed the bar. The MPRE passage also, if they have not met that, there's a separate way to meet the legal ethics requirements, and that is by completing the 4 hours of the 10-hour new attorney training, the 4 hours related to legal ethics. Also, your moral character application, it doesn't have to have been cleared, but you have to have submitted a complete application in order to qualify and be eligible for the program. Also, the supervising lawyer must agree to assume professional responsibility over the work of the provisionally licensed lawyer. This program is scheduled to end on June 1st, 2022. Sorry, of course, the garbage truck comes right when I'm, sorry, give me 1 second. So the program will terminate June 1st, 2022, unless it's extended by the courts. And just to be clear, provisionally licensed lawyers will be able to engage in all activities a fully licensed lawyer would, subject to certain restrictions. I mentioned the eligibility includes being a law school graduate in this time period, having submitted a moral character application. Also, you cannot have any outstanding child support arrears or any unpaid admissions fees. And applicants must have either a conditional employment offer or an employment offer. And that offer could be for a paid position or also for volunteer opportunities. The requirements, there's a set of requirements obviously for the supervising attorney. They must have practiced law for the last 4 years in any US jurisdiction, but have actively practiced law in California for at least 2 years immediately preceding the time of supervision. They must also exercise competence in the area of California law in which they're going to be supervising the provisionally licensed lawyer, and they must be in good standing with the state bar. If the supervising attorney is eligible, there's just certain things. They must work for the same firm that the provisionally licensed lawyer is going to be employed at or volunteering at. I've already mentioned the fact that they must assume professional responsibility. There's some disclosures that are required for their clients, alerting them that a provisionally licensed lawyer will be providing legal services. In the event that the PLL is no longer eligible for the program, the supervising attorney must assume responsibility for that, the work of that person. And also, if any conditions change and the PLP is no longer working with that supervising lawyer, the state bar needs to be notified within 10 days. So it's been a very interesting program. We implemented on November 17th. Since that date, and I just checked our stats this morning, we've received a total of 966 applications, of which 508 have been approved. So since November 17th, 508 people have been approved and are currently working as provisionally licensed lawyers. There are a couple of modifications or proposed amendments to that rule that are happening right now. One of them is up on our website and available for public comment. And what it does is it's a proposal to expand the eligibility criteria. So that what it does is it will open and broaden the eligibility criteria to anybody who has graduated, who was taken the bar from July 2015 to February 2020, and who scored a 1390, that is the new cut score, in either the first read or as a total scaled score. If that were to happen, if somebody met that condition, they would be eligible for the PLL program. So that is currently in our, as I mentioned, as a public comment that people could comment on through December 18th. And a second part of the proposal that's up for discussion right now with the working group, because it is a working group that was established to set up the parameters of this program. They continue to meet. And a second component that would broaden this program is also to use a PLL program in lieu of the bar exam. So the idea that is that after a certain set number of hours, somebody could, and with along with the successful evaluation from the supervising lawyer, the PLL candidate would be able to become licensed in California without the bar exam. And so that component, again, is going to be discussed at the December 28th meeting or 29th meeting. It's either the 28th or 29th. The working group will be meeting once more to discuss that as a potential proposed amendment to California Rule of Court 4.9. So,
Amy, is there an expectation that this is going to continue beyond June 1st of this year or next year?
So the program sunsets June 1st, 2022. And it's too soon to tell. I mean, ultimately the Supreme Court has to make that determination. But as I mentioned, we've been in the, the program has been around for less than a month. And so far so good, but time will tell.
Time will tell if we see any damage. So, and we just hope for success stories.
Yes, we do. Yeah, but are there any questions, comments, ideas? Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Mark?
Okay, I think it's back to me, and we had Jeffrey,
I know. He
but
stepped
we've
away.
lost Jeffrey. So because we need quorum, I think we need to come back to the consent, don't you think?
I agree.
Okay,
So we can skip to my next report. There's
Okay.
there's no voting. It's just an oral report. So once we see if anyone sees him pop back on, we can go back to vote on the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay.
Okay, so there's a very long budget attachment. It's attachment A for this part of the meeting. So hopefully everyone's read it, or well, not read the whole thing, but following along. So we have the full 2020 third quarter report that the Board of Trustees had, and is also provided to us here at the CBLS meeting for review. If you look directly at our parts of that budget, you can skip to page 20. And you can see that compared to the same time in 2019, actually have a 6.7 revenue decrease, which might make sense in terms of which years we administer exams. And then if you skip ahead to page 27, you can look at our positive net change overall of 1,385,926. So you can see that we still have this positive net change. Also on page 19, if you recall, we still have the loan repayment from admissions in 2020. And then again, on page 28, our net balance is still 5,751,545. So we're going to talk throughout this meeting about legal specialization having a very healthy balance there, and what we need to kind of do about that. But that's the overall third quarter report for what pertains to this group.
Right. Audrey, when I was looking through the financials, and obviously I didn't get a whole lot of time to go through them in detail, but
yeah.
while I saw the payment that was made in 2020, it looks like,
yes,
I didn't see anywhere where the balance of the note is reflected in these financials. Do we know how much is still owed back to the specialization?
I can actually look that up in our Oracle system, maybe even in real time for us when in a minute. I'm not sure. Amy, do you know off the top of your head?
I believe that's our, that's admission's third payment to legal specialization.
Yeah.
So, but we can confirm that through Oracle. I believe we have 7 more payments remaining.
Okay.
And they're each of 100,000. So.
Right. They've been nice round numbers, so it's easy to kind of track, but
yeah.
I didn't see a continuing balance that makes it easier for us to also double check as well.
Okay. I'll see if I can just look that up. If I'm not speaking, I will do that.
There's a lot on your plate.
Oh no, it's a fine. It's just the multitasking. So then there's an attachment B about how many specialists we have. So compared to a year ago, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even ask if anyone else had questions on the budget. Also, I believe that Jeff is back, but we can go through this first.
He's back.
He's back.
I am back. The court, I should have mentioned that earlier. The court said they were ready for me. We went on, and the other attorney was not present, so I'm going to have to leave one more time. It should be for about 5 minutes. I told the judge I had a state bar meeting. He's said too bad.
So do we want to take out of order and go back to the minutes while we
Yeah,
got
let's do
Jeff here?
that while we have Jeff to vote. That's a great idea.
Okay, so everybody, if we can look to Roman numeral 3 of our agenda for today, and that's the approval of the September 18, 2020 Board of Legal Specialization public minutes. Hopefully everybody's got a chance to review that, or if you want to go to your agenda and take a look at that right now. Unfortunately, everybody who is here today was here on September 18th.
Great. I will move to approve the September 18th minutes.
Moved by Natalie. Do I have a second?
Second, Norma.
Second by Norma. Audrey, if you would take the roll, please.
Sure. Actually, Anna, want to go ahead? Anna, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Hammerschmidt,
Hammerschmidt, you're on mute.
Yes.
Lester,
Aye.
Levy,
Yes.
Vance,
Yes.
And probably need to go back to Acosta.
the motion passes.
Excellent. So now that we've jumped there, why don't we go back to then the continuation on the reports and the budget?
I have just also found Jake in the attendee list and promoted him to panelist. So Jake is here now.
Excellent. Welcome, Jake.
Hello, how are you?
Good to have you join us.
Yeah, I just came out of a dentist office, so I'll be joining you guys first half an hour in my car and until I get to my my house. So
Perfect. We'll defer going back to that training then until you get to your house, so it's a whole lot easier for you to follow along with the slides. So I guess we're still over on business A. I think you were at the number specialist, was that right?
Yes, right, exactly right. So if you look at the attachment B, you can see that we've got a decrease from a year ago, 43 fewer specialists.
And Jake, if you could put yours on mute while we go. Thanks.
I muted him. He's in the car, so I'll mute him for now.
What page are you referring to on the consolidated scan?
Well, it's a separate attachment. So if you are on those key indicators, do you see attachment B?
So I'm in the consolidated scan file, which is 119 pages. Are you referring to, I mean, it's probably in the 119 pages.
So I'm looking at, I'm looking at the posted public agenda, the A, review of report of financial and operational key indicators. If you click on that, then all of the attachments I'm referring to kind of come up. Do you want me to, or do you want Janelle to share the screen and show you where we're looking?
No, I mean, I just thought it would be easier to kind of, instead of opening up each attachment, to just do the consolidated scan, but that doesn't seem like that's easier. You know? So.
Yeah, no, I understand. It would be easier if I knew where it was there, but I'm looking at how it is posted. I'm sorry, Avi.
All right, so I'll just go to that because that's what I used to do the last few meetings, and I thought, oh, this time I'll do the consolidated scan, which is harder to follow. So I'll go back to what I used to do. Thank you, though.
All right, sorry about that, Avi.
Oh, can I just chime in here? When you say consolidated scan, do you mean that cover page that has a summary?
I think he's looking at a scan of all the attachments in one PDF.
Okay. Okay.
So appellate, criminal, and estate, they all had increases, slight increases, 15 total members between those three groups. And then family law and workers' compensation had the largest decreases, 10 in family law and 22 in workers' comp. So that's the update on our numbers of specialists. Any questions there? Okay, so in the same agenda item, we're looking at attachment C now about how many resignations we've had. So through December 1st of this year, we had 136 resignations. About half of those are due to retirement. You can see that on the chart. So looking at the forecasting for the rest of this month, based on this current pattern, the resignation should be in line with what we had in 2019 and 2018, where we had 160 and then 158 resignations. No questions about resignations that I see. Okay, so the last attachment under this area is about legal specialization education compliance. So we had 1,949 specialists in group 3 when that reporting opened. And if you'll recall, reporting actually ended for group 3 on February 1st, but we extended due to COVID until September 30th. So as of December 1st, we still had 103 pending, so 5.8%, and then that was a much better outlook than from our September CBLS meeting where we had 28% pending. So in our agenda later today, we do have an item to vote on. We've provided a staff recommendation for annual revocation of non-compliance. So we'll have that discussion. It's open item 4E. So we'll have that discussion later. And group 2 compliance just opened on December 1st. There's 1,397 specialists and they're due to report by February 1st, 21.
I actually just put all of my compliance together last week, so I'm in that.
All right. That's great. Any questions? And again, we will have an item specifically about that group 3 and their revocation in a little bit.
So good morning, everyone. I'm here to report the initial certification application statuses. So in order to receive certification, the applicants must first take the test and pass the legal specialization exam. They are eligible to submit their post-examination application for initial certification. Those who passed the 2017 exam have until January of 2021 to file their application. And we had a total of 704 passers, which is 77.1% have filed their applications for that. And there was a remaining of 22 have not received an extension. Those who passed the 2019 exam have until April of 2021 to submit their application or request an extension. There was 382 passers, which is 42.1%, and they have already filed their applications. 6 have already received extensions through January of 2023. The most common reason for extension is for the applicants to reach their 5-year practice requirements. And as a reminder, at its June meeting, the CBLS approved a 3-month extension for applicants to submit their applications. Any
Now,
questions?
I know that the applications no longer come to us. It's outside of our purview. Do we ever get to see a list of the names of those who are newly certified?
We can provide that if needed, if you would like, Mark.
I'm only interested because I knew some of the people who passed. I'd like to make sure they got their applications and stuff done.
Perfect. I'll go ahead and take note of that and let Adrian know.
Thanks.
So moving on to approvals of certification revocations for failure to recertify. Specialists are required to report a compliance of their tasks and experience and references requirements by recertifying every 5 years. Reminders are automatically sent through the AIMS email system. And we also sent a 30-day late reminder through the State Bar Mail Service, as well as a 60-day final notice through the State Bar Mail Service and physical letters, which helped a lot, I must say. At our June and September meeting, the CBLS moved a motion and what was lost to revoke any certifications at that time. 84 specialists were pending recertification through August 31st. All have received their final email as far as their physical notices. Their past actions to send notices of we're consistent with the past action, to send notice of revocations. Staff will send paper and electronics through the State Bar email service. So moving forward with that, yes, and your emails helped as well.
I was going to say, did we get confirmation that our last rounds of emails are now getting through and we're no longer in people's spam list?
Yes, we did let them know that they're to check their spam, as well as we went ahead and made those changes to the website as well. So hopefully that will have more people getting information out to them and receiving it as well.
Great. So is this the spot where we take a roll or take a motion with respect to the revocation of the specialization for these,
Yeah.
what is it, 84?
Yes, so there has been 84 specialists that are still pending for recertification. So an action is needed to go ahead and move forward to go ahead and revoke these people for legal specialists.
Okay, so first up would be the motion to approve staff's recommendation to revoke the certification of the folks listed on attachment A.
Correct.
So just to clarify, since the last meeting, we were going to send additional notices by letter, and we were going to do reminders. So all that has been done and still no response?
Yes, we sent 30 and 60-day notices, as well as we sent physical letters to them.
Okay. Thank you.
And how much time did they have when they received the letter?
I believe it was 30 days from the date of the letter.
Avi, you've got a question?
Yeah, so I had emailed hundreds, I think, of people on the family law list, whether it was the failure to recertify list, or the failure to pay the fee list, or the failure to pay to do the CLEs or whatever it is. And so I spent hours doing all that. A lot of them had then written me personally, which was real fun, saying, thank you, whatever. And then another batch of people would be like, I'm trying to get through. They're not answering me. What do I do? Can you tell me who to contact? Whatever. And I'm like, well, call them or leave a message or try to contact Adrian. This is the person, or, poor Adrian. But I would provide a little bit more information, and then they would send me whatever they're, can I just, send you the check and you could take care of it for me since you're on the board, or here's my recertification application. Can you, and I'm like, no. So, and then most recently, I'm still getting some emails from family law specialists that are saying that they still haven't heard back. They've sent in their paperwork weeks ago, they're trying to get through, blah, blah, blah. So I'm concerned still that there is a gap or a hole in the communication system. I'm looking at this now list regarding approval of certification revocations for failure to recertify. I recognize a lot of these names for people I did reach out to. I don't know personally if they've done what they needed to do, but I'm concerned that there are probably people who have done what they needed to do, and either you guys have not received it for some reason, or they haven't, or I don't know. There seems to be a hole, and I don't know how to fix it. And I feel like our efforts of each person taking a list of people to contact, you guys sending the letters, we've done what we could do, but I don't know what else we can do to fill in the rest of the holes, because there does seem to be still some holes.
So, and I think I just want to chime in here about the whole itself. So I think, you know, the plan to have members reach out to people was, it sounds like that's been effective, and that's been great. Also, for us to send the physical letter as well as the 2 additional reminders has been successful, right? Because I think we got some back. But I think the problem fundamentally too is that some people were accustomed to reporting, and this is what I'm suspecting based on what you just said, Avi, and that is some people are historically had reported on paper, you know, like submitted this old system. We're now in the Ames portal, and I think that might be contributing to this problem. And the question is like, how do we fix that? Janelle, do you think, you know, are most of these people like have been with us as specialists for quite some time? Is there any way to determine that? Because it could be the modality move to this online system. People think they're doing the right thing because they've always done it this way, but we've moved on to electronic format, and I think that could be a contributing factor.
We have seen an influx of applications still coming in as paper. When we sent the email as well as the paper notifications to these specialists, they were advised due to COVID to go ahead and send it in electronically directly to a specialist to go ahead and handle in a prompt processing manner. I know for myself, when I received calls as well as emails, I went ahead and sent that information to them and let them know to go ahead and send it to me, and I would take care of it. With only us going in once a week to process mail due to COVID, that we are definitely seeing a lot of applications as well. So I am very unsure how we make this situation better for a specialist.
Well, I'm just wondering, is there any way that I hate to say it, like we lost a letter or that somebody has not been called back? Like,
if their information wasn't correct in the system, when their MyState profiles haven't been updated, that's another thing that is a problem for us, I feel like. But
so this is Natalie. I mean, I think the biggest problem that we've encountered as we've looked into this is that this email outreach is not reaching anyone. There is a high failure rate due to spam filters, et cetera. And it's not until a legal specialist reached out to somebody that they're made aware of the issue, and perhaps when they get the mailing. So all of these efforts over time, a lot of these people are not receiving. And that's a concern, because obviously our goal is to get these folks to recertify and have more certified specialists in California, not less, particularly when we have folks who are very qualified and have already established themselves. So, you know, I would be in favor of doing some more outreach via mail, maybe taking these last 84 folks and dividing them up among the legal specialists to do another targeted outreach. or something along those lines before we revoke their specialization.
Okay.
Have we ever done like phone calls? I mean, has that been a thing where, or do we have the human power to make phone calls to these 84 people or however many people on all the lists to say, hey, I'm just kind of one last shot here. I'm gonna leave you a message. We try to contact you by email, by mail, and this is our last ditch effort to try to contact you for whatever reason. If we don't hear from you, we have no, we're unfortunately going to have to revoke your specialty. Has that been something that we have the human power to do? And or has it been done?
Amy or Audrey?
You know what, I wish I could say I knew this, but no, I mean, I think, like I mentioned this earlier, I think the transition onto this online system, has created this need, because Natalie's point is very well taken, and that is, moving to this modality, the problem is anything that we send out gets filtered. And it's a problem that we've had with even the admissions process. When we send things out to applicants, for the bar exam, and we tell them, hey, did you, respond to the testing conditions? They're like, what testing conditions? Because it's gone into their spam. So even the email that's alerting them, hey, you have this, document to review in your portal, that's not coming through. And, what we've told people is, to whitelist, any emails coming from either our AIM system or from the California State Bar. So what I'm wondering though, is because it's a historical moment, and what I mean by that is, we're going to be transitioning onto the system. This has to be our main communication system, given that it's a transition for some of these applicants. I'm wondering if we should move to this like last ditch effort and make these calls. And I hate to pile more work onto our staff's plate, especially when we have like 2 openings on our team. But perhaps we have to make this effort. If in fact, especially you can see the list and that some of these people are active members that there's a major communication gap that isn't preventing them from responding to our requests. So, on
a personal level, I note that the list of the estate planning folk, which, I went on a email campaign like Avi did, is significantly shorter than it was when we last met, and that pleases me. But when you combine the historical or the pandemic that has hit us with also now the transition into electronics, and you put both those together, this may be an appropriate time to do something more historic, and maybe we reach out again. We take the vote when Jeff gets back to table this one more time, try another last reach out to see if we can confirm that we have effectively reached all 84 of these people who are now affirmatively electing not to complete the recertification. But with Jeff out, we can't even take a vote at this point.
We can
Yeah,
with Jake.
Oh, we can?
Well, if Jake's able to vote, we can.
Oh, that's true. Thank you, Jake. You give us a quorum.
I just wanted to mention, I see a couple names that one I know was hospitalized for months. And so I would be very wary of, right now revoking the specialization. The other one, I'm very surprised that the person is there. And this is for the group of workers' comp. I wasn't able to contact folks, and I did tell Adrian that, So I'm hoping somebody else was able to do that, but I do see a couple names there that I would be very wary of revoking the specialization for.
So maybe what we do is we bring the motion formally. If we want to, as a group, extend the deadline, then we vote no on the motion, but that then allows us to move on through the agenda. So if I can have somebody bring the motion with respect to the decertification. Anybody want to, bring the motion?
Maybe there's confusion about what you want them to move as
Right.
recommended. Okay, so
To make the motion to move as recommended, and then we can vote yay or nay on that, but complete the process so we can move on.
Okay, so this is Natalie. I just want to be clear what we're moving for. So we are moving to not approve the recommendation to go ahead and revoke. We are voting to approve the recommendation that we take more time and do further outreach to these individuals before revoking, correct?
So we would be making a motion on item C of that to either revoke or not revoke the specialists on the list. And then we would make a new motion to go ahead and move forward to have another probably go around for us to reach out to these specialists on this list to give them an ample amount of time or some time set from you guys to recertify.
Okay. Perfect. So I will make a motion that we not revoke the pending revocations for failure to recertify.
Second.
Second by Avi. All right, if we can take a roll on that, Janelle.
Sorry, can I just chime in? But I thought I heard like a two-step issue. One is not to revoke the certifications, but also for to direct staff to conduct another outreach via telephone.
Right. So do we need to modify the motion, or do we vote on the original motion, then come back with a new motion to direct staff?
I think that's a good idea. And perhaps, what I'm trying to do is what Adrian does is type it out, and I'm just, so I'm so sorry. I really am trying here.
He's pretty savvy at doing that for us in real time.
Sure is. But I think we understand the sentiment, and that is, it's a two-part. So let me just, well, I don't know if it's appropriate for me to make this friendly amendment, but I just want to make sure that we had the other component, and that is to not revoke these certifications, but to conduct one more outreach attempt via telephone and bring it back to the committee, to the board at the next meeting.
So we're going to do that as a separate motion. So we're first going to vote to not revoke.
Yes.
All right, then I will just remain quiet here. Sorry.
No worries.
Okay, so the original motion is to not revoke these 84. If we can take the roll call then.
Acosta,
Yes.
I'd say yes.
who is that?
It was me, Jake.
Hammerschmidt,
He's still absent.
Christensen,
Absent.
Lester.
Aye.
So would this be that the motion is lost, correct?
Correct. Yes, essentially it's a no to the original vote motion.
Also, you didn't get my vote. This is Natalie. Yes.
And Avi, yes.
I thought we were missing a few. Okay. This is where Rob's better at running this thing for calling for motions and stuff. So now we have the second motion, which is to direct staff to reach out via telephone or other communication one more time to these 84.
I will
Do
make that motion. This is Natalie.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I think a
Obvious.
piece of it has to be to bring it back at the next meeting as well, technically.
Correct, and to bring back the report of those efforts at the next meeting.
Will do.
So it's been moved and seconded. If we can take a roll again, Anna?
Okay, Acosta,
Yes.
Hammerschmidt, Christensen, Lester,
Aye.
and you.
Aye.
Okay.
And Levy and Vance.
Yes, you have to call out roll to everyone, even though if they motioned or second.
Okay.
Anna.
Levy
Yes.
and Vance
Yes.
And Yoon.
and you.
He said yes.
It said yes to begin with, right? Okay, so the first motion's essentially voted down. The second motion is approved, and I think we can move on to the next one on the approval of the annual certification revocations for failure to pay their legal specialization program.
Yes, so the legal specialization program is entirely self-funded. Specialists are required to pay this legal specialization annual fee every year, and it's due at the same time as their general licensing fees. The fees are originally due by February 1st, but were extended to September 30th as a result of COVID-19. The table in the agenda item provides a breakdown of specialists by specialty area, and the attachment lists the specific specialist as well as individuals. The reminder has been sent electronically through the State Bar email system, and at its September meeting, the CBLS motion was lost to revoke the certifications at that time. 15 specialists were pending the 2020 balance. All have received a final email as well as a physical notice. That is now down from 67 at the September meeting. It's consistent with the past actions to send notices of revocation. 2019, there was 52 recommended. In 2018, there was 31 recommended. Staff will send paper and electronic emails through the State Bar email service. So now we are moving to see if we want to revoke the people that have not paid their 2020 annual dues.
And note, this is a much smaller list. Way more than half of them are inactive or ineligible. There are only 6 that are on this list now that appear to be actively practicing but have failed to pay their annual fee. Is that right?
Correct.
So do we have a motion to approve the revocation of the specialization for this list of attorneys who have failed to pay the legal specialization program fee?
This is Avi, so moved.
Norma, second.
Okay, if we can call the roll, please, Anna.
Okay. Acosta,
Yes.
Hammerschmidt, Christensen, Lester,
Aye.
Levy,
Yes.
Vance,
Yes.
and you.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay. Then we move on to the approval of the annual certification for revocations for failure to complete the reporting for their legal education compliance.
Right.
Again,
So specialists are required to report compliance of 36 hours of LSCLE in their specialty area every 3 years, which is due at the same time as their MCLE. This was originally due on February 1st, but it has been extended to September 30th due to COVID. The table in the agenda provides a breakdown of the specialist and the specialty. As of December 1st, there's a remaining 103 specialists who have not complied, which is down from 544 from our last CBLS meeting. This is consistent with the past action to send notice of revocation. In 2019, there was 107 recommended, and in 2018, there was 37 recommended. And staff has sent both an email and mail notification to have them submit their LSCLE.
Okay, this is a much longer list than the last one, and it's nice to see it's a smaller list. Do we have comfort with this list of folks that everybody has been reached again since our last meeting?
So I recognize a lot of these names of people that I emailed. Again, I think this list is more, I feel a little bit more uncomfortable with this list, similar to the failure to recertify list, versus the list of people who failed to pay. Because it's specifically with family law on the list we just voted, everybody in family law on that list was either inactive or not eligible to practice or whatever. So those, kind of made sense to me. I think Mark said that there were only 6 active attorneys on that prior list that we just voted on. My concerns with this current list are more in line with my concerns on the first list. And so I think I would be open to making and voting similarly on the similar motions as we did on the failure to recertify lists.
I agree. I look at these names just on the estate planning side, and again, I'm familiar with a lot of them. I'm only comfortable that I know for sure 2 of them actually are either that they had another failure that was material to them, or in the case of one of them, I know he hasn't completed his legal education and couldn't report compliance. The rest of them, I don't know, and I think a reach out is probably necessary again.
I would agree.
So then, do we need to have the motion presented as it is in the agenda, or can we modify and do exactly what we did the last time, which is we're voting to say extend it, we're going to vote it down now and then add the second motion?
Yes, correct. So we will be voting for or against revoking these applicants due to not turning in their LSCLE compliance, and then we'll make a new motion to go ahead and reach out again. So it'll be a 2-part motion.
And to bring it back on the agenda.
Right.
Yes, correct.
So let's start with the first one, which is the motion to reject the current revocation of this list of specialist status as a legal specialization. Do I have will somebody move that?
This is Natalie. I'll make the motion.
In a second?
Second.
I'll second if no one does.
Avi, great. Then Anna, if you could take roll, please. Anna, you're muted.
Acosta, sorry about that.
Yes.
Hammerschmidt, hold on.
I just got back on. I should probably abstain unless I can have a summary of what we're voting on.
A quick summary is we're voting to reject the recommendation that this list of specialists be decertified at this time.
I would agree with that. It's a yes vote.
Lester,
Yes?
Levy,
Yes.
Vance,
Yes.
and Yoon.
Yes.
The motion passed.
Okay, then the second motion that we did will be similar to the last one, to direct staff to reach out to the people on this list and report back their communication efforts on the pending decertification. Do I have a first on that motion?
I will make the motion.
And a second?
Second.
Oh,
Second by Levy. Anna, if you'd be kind enough to take the roll, please.
Acosta,
yes.
Hammerschmidt,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Levy,
Yes,
Yeah.
with the mute on.
Yes.
Vance,
Yes.
and you.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes.
Great. Next on our agenda is the update on the CBLS 2020 work plan initiatives and approval of the 2021 work plan.
All right, thank you. So at our last meeting, we talked a little bit about the work plan and potential areas of development. The agenda item has a few things attached. It has the Board of Trustees strategic plan attached. It has the 2020 work plan attached, as well as the proposed 2021 work plan. And I will just highlight a few of the changes in those plans. So starting with the 2020 update, in 2020, the initiatives included that we recruit for past advisory. I'm just wondering, is it possible to put your phone on mute if you're talking? Sorry, I don't know if you guys are getting a lot of background noise. Okay.
I muted everyone but you. So
Okay. Okay, thank you. So the 2020 work plan included the establishment of legal specialization working groups that would help the board make determinations and in consultation support. And so the goal was to recruit from past advisory commissioners, graders, and current specialists to fill those positions. And we were able to do that in all areas with the exception of admiralty, franchise, and legal malpractice. So we will continue on that effort, but need to update that initiative on the work plan. We also plan to use exam developers to assist in the file review as necessary. The file review was the activity and the task that this board directed us to use working groups on, and to really rely on their expertise in those determinations. Also on that, listed in that as an initiative were the guidelines for evaluating proposals for expanding the certification areas. And at the March meeting, this group approved an amendment for the criteria in determining new specialty areas. And that the 2021 initiative reflects that change. Lastly, there's the evaluation of the psychometrician's grading study findings. And later on, we're going to talk a little bit about that and the recommendations stemming from that. But those were like historical events that were completed, and the 2021 work plan reflects that. One of the goals also, and Anna's going to report a bit on, is the procedure for attorneys who might be representing themselves as specialists when they are not. Do you want to talk about that process, Anna?
Yeah. So as discussed in the last meeting, there was a total of 113 revocations and resignations that were processed as of then in 2020. Of those 113, 2 were revoked, and I'm sorry, 2 were revoked and 18 were resigned. And these people were the ones that continued to show that they were legal specialists on their attorney profiles or websites, what have you. So these applicants were actually contacted. We reminded them of the ethics per rule of professional conduct of 7.4 4A, which provides that an attorney cannot state in a communication or solicitation that the attorney is a certified specialist unless the attorney is currently certified as a specialist. So currently our State Bar profile isn't reflecting accurately that information. So we are working with our IT department to make sure that the information that the public has as to who's a legal specialist and who isn't is also accurate. So once that's confirmed and fixed on behalf of the IT department, then we'll go on to really develop a procedure as to how to make sure that these attorneys don't misrepresent themselves. But it looks like we might have a change in a rule or an amendment to a rule to make sure that there's some kind of discipline or outcome for the people who are misrepresenting themselves.
Thank you, Anna. So let me summarize then what the 2021 work plan reflects. So it's the removal of the working group initiative because we have achieved that, although we'll continue to recruit for the 3 areas that we've struggled with. To update the guidelines for with the new areas, like the initiative to have focus on the needs for the CBLS liaisons. We're going to also remove the designation initiative to have focus on the updating the rules and standards to include enforcement, as Anna has reported. We're going to create a new initiative to have contingency plans to administer the legal specialization exam remotely in the event that we have to move in that direction, and for opportunities to encourage registration to that exam. Also, based on conversations that we had at the last meeting, we're going to create a new initiative to focus on marketing opportunities, specifically to educate the public and include awareness of the program and to encourage program growth. So those are the summary of the discussions that took place here at the last meeting and what's been proposed for the 2021 working plan.
Okay. Any questions among the crew? Then the motion before us is to move that the California Board of Legal Specialization 2021 work plan is approved for the Board of Trustees. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
By Hammerschmidt, and a second.
This is Natalie.
Second.
I think Natalie got in first, so by Vance. Anna, if you would take roll, please.
Acosta,
Yes.
Hammerschmidt,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Levy,
Yes.
Mann,
Yes.
and Yoon.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Great. Now we move on to item G. That's the approval of the 2021 legal specialist examination registration fee reduction. Janelle, I think that's you.
Yes, it is. So we are looking to reduce the 2021 registration fees. That would be to waive the laptop fee. Looking at this for 2 main reasons. The one is in anticipation of another budget spend down. We are currently over our reserve. So our 2021 budget expenses are 1.9 million and our max is 570,000. At the end of the quarter for the third quarter in 2020, we have 5.8 million in our fund. And that may help encourage, additional applicants to register for our 2021 exam, as well as stay under our budget. So just a little background, 2017 fees, there was a $100 initial registration fee from January to June. And then it was $150 additional late fee from July to October, but there was no laptop fee. And then in 2019, the fees were $350 for the initial registration from March to September, and there was a $250 additional late fee from September to October, with also the $100 laptop fee. So we are recommending that for our 2020 legal specialization exam, there will be a $100 initial registration fee from March to August, as well as a $150 additional late fee for those taking the test in August to October, but we would waive the laptop fee. So we are asking that the CBLS move with our recommendation to go to help our reduction of our legal specialization fee.
This is Natalie. I would move to approve the registration fee.
Vance has moved. Do we have a second?
Seconded.
Hammerschmidt has second. Do we need any discussion, or is everybody comfortable they've reviewed this thoroughly?
Ready to vote.
Okay. Anna, if you'd take the vote, please.
Acosta,
Yes.
Hammerschmidt,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Levy,
Yes.
Vance,
Yes.
and Yoon.
Yes.
And the motion passes.
Okay. Before we go jump all the way back up to the top on the training, why don't we finish up with H, which is the approval of the certified specialist request for adjustment in the annual fee.
All
I
right.
think this is for discussion. Amy.
Yes. So in November, we received a letter, and I'm hoping each of you have a copy of that letter. And that letter came from a family law specialist who is alerting us he's been a specialist since 1992. He is currently participating in the State Bar's pro bono program. And as such, he's not required to pay general bar dues. But he is required to pay legal specialization annual dues and has been doing so since he retired. He does this out of pocket. So he is formally requesting from the board that he's permitted to waive those fees for calendar year 2021. And in his letter, he specifies that he believes it would be appropriate for the specialization board to provide the fee waiver, but also it would provide a small reward to those providing pro bono services and would encourage specialist practitioners in giving back in the giving back phase of their careers, and to maintain high standards in the practice expected of specialists. So the request here is to provide a one-time waiver to the specialist for calendar year 2021.
Okay. So do we have, then the motion is to approve this one-time waiver. Do we have a first?
I'll make that motion.
And a second?
This is Norma. I'll second.
Okay. And Anna, any further discussion before we take the vote? All right, Anna, if you'd do the roll call, please.
Okay. Acosta,
Yes.
Hammerschmidt,
Jeff, you're on mute.
Okay. Yes.
thank you. Lester,
Yes.
Levy,
Yes.
Vance,
Yes.
and Yoon.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. And I think with that, we can probably go way back to the start here. And now that Jake is fully involved here in the meeting, we can go through a refresher course on new member orientation.
Thank you. Yes, and welcome, Jake. So we're going to go through this new member orientation for the California Board of Legal Specialization. Next slide. Thank you. So this is the mission of the State Bar of California. I'm sure all the continuing members have this memorized. The State Bar's mission is to protect the public and includes the primary functions of licensing, regulation, and discipline of attorneys, the advancement of the ethical and competent practice of law, and support of efforts for greater access to and inclusion in the legal system. So there are different entities overseeing the work of our committee and the work of the Office of Admissions. So there's the Board of Trustees, which is the State Bar's governing body. It develops the guiding policies and principles underpinning the regulatory mission of the State Bar, and there are 13 members of the Board of Trustees. For the Office of Admissions, we also have the Committee of Bar Examiners influencing the work, and the legislature and the Supreme Court. For legal specialization, of course, we have this entity, the Board of Legal Specialization. And then our Committee of Bar Examiners also has two sub-entities. As you well know, in California, we have accredited and registered law schools that are under the umbrella of our law school regulations. So we have the Committee of State Bar Accredited and Registered Schools Committee, and we have a law school council committee also that has members who are ABA deans. So next slide. So the rules. So these first set of rules deal with the logistics of CBLS, the composition, the authority establishment, conflicts of interest, handling confidential information, and then 3.110 through 3.113 has some of those basic program details that we've actually been going through in this meeting. So requirements, fees, applications, reporting. Next slide. 3.114 to 3.119 are those basic program details, the education, practice and task requirements, references, waivers, modifications, recertifications. Next slide. 3.120 describes the process for denials. 3.121 through 3.123 describe State Bar staff and State Bar board roles on challenged applications. And 3.14 through 3.125 describe the grounds for suspension and revocation and the process for appeals. And 3.126 notes that specialist designation is determined by the State Bar. So hopefully everyone also at some point will read through those, but that's the summary of all the rules related to legal specialization. And I'll turn it over to Amy.
All right, thank you. So part of the those rules were modified in 2018 as a result of the Appendix I review. And the rules also change some of the functions of the CBLS, but these are the functions that are being carried out by this board. First of all, the board serves as an appellate body for certification or recertification applications. So when staff make determinations about these applications, if there's any challenge, for example, somebody's denied and they'd like to challenge that determination, it would be brought to this board. They're also the policy-making body, and we talked about that throughout our agenda items today. Some of the policy decisions, such as the one that was just made earlier about conducting a fee granting period or a fee-free period for the exam and the like. So these types of policy decisions are brought to this board. The establishment, approval, or denial of new requests for new specialization areas come to this group. The review of overall program health also comes to this group, and we saw that in the key indicators that Audrey covered earlier, looking at factors that contribute to the expansion or the reduction of the volume of this program in terms of people enrolled and the finance health of this program. the approval or denial of specialization in light of the of both the education compliance and the payment compliance. Also, the appeals body for all determinations. So decisions that are made related to applications come here. And then as outreach for legal specialization. And you saw that we added that also to the strategic plan. And that is just, we rely on this board to help us with program outreach and also to ensuring that we're meeting the mission of this program, which is to promote attorney competence and also to provide the consumers an independent review and verification of attorney excellence and specialty in these arenas. Okay, next slide. So in terms of what staff do in support of this program is the initial certification and recertification file review. But as we noted earlier too, we work with or rely on working groups to help us in the process of the file review. If anything seems that we would need some programmatic perspective, we bring it to that working group. We also work with the legal specialization examination development team to develop the questions pre-test in the same fashion that we did when we had advisory commissioners help us on that. We recruit for that team, the LEDGE team, the S is silent, and for subject matter experts in some of the work that we do. We also help with the outreach. Yes?
Toward that line, do we have an ongoing list of people who've expressed interest in a particular area to become an exam writer or help us out in that area?
Yes, we do.
Thanks, Janelle. And also, I think we try to ensure also that there's no potential conflicts of interest. Like, for example, whoever is like pre-testing a question should probably not participate in, I don't know, selecting that question and so on. So aside from keeping the recruiting ongoing, we're also trying to ensure that there are no conflicts of interest in the process.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure. So, we try to participate as much as possible in outreach, participating in conferences and looking out. Our team joins the CAW conference, the CLA conferences when those are available. We've gone to a remote process or modality given the COVID, and our staff has attended that. And just general program administration, any taking calls, inquiries about the program itself. All right, next slide. So in terms of the subject matters that we rely, experts that we rely on, these are the different groups. I already mentioned the working group. So we have working groups by specialty areas, and they help us review complex applications and make recommendations about the certification, recertification applications. They conduct the final review of the legal specialization exam before it gets administered. And that task itself is something that was done previously by the advisory commissions as well. In terms of examination development, we have developers that are dedicated to drafting and reviewing and editing exam questions. They also help with conducting the question selection process. We also have, as distinct from developers, we have pre-testers. Those are people that take the exam question and test everything from the timing to by question type, and then provide very specific feedback that gets considered as questions are selected in the for the final exam as the final examination. And lastly, graders, and I shouldn't say lastly, last but not least, graders, which are very key. You'll hear about this later on today. In our examination process. They grade essay questions, but a lot goes into that, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. File review is another task that we accomplish, and so This is a review of the applications that we get in, either for people who want to be certified or recertified, and they come in different formats. I talked about the fact earlier that we're transitioning onto an online portal, but we still have people who submit in paper, and we're transitioning everybody onto this portal. So staff review these applications, ensuring that all of the requirements are met. And the requirements, these are some of the basic requirements, but there are some that are very field specific or specialty specific. So any questions or issues that arise get handled. And then again, the CBLS oversees the appeals as they come up in this file review. As for exam development, we already talked about the fact that our exams are held every other year in October of odd years. So we have one coming up in October of 2021. They coincide with our first year exams as well. So that helps with our staffing. They are developed on a 2-year development cycle. And we're going to talk a little bit about where we're at with that in our closed session today. They are led by the LEDGE team. Our LEDGE team members normally have about at least 20 years of grading experience. So these are very experienced attorneys in the field of both grading and leading the development of examinations. I already mentioned this, but our next administration is going to be October 26, 2021. It'll be here before we know it. Now, these are our schedule for our upcoming meetings in 2021. You know, it's been hard to predict whether we're going to be able to meet in person. And so what we've been told and instructed to do internally is to assume that we're probably, our first half of the year will probably be online meetings. So we'll be meeting by Zoom on March 5th and June 4th at least. And our intention is to potentially host, if that's at all possible, in-person meetings. And so September 10th could be that date. If not, again, these will continue as Zoom meetings. Our board meeting is on September 23rd. And then our legal specs meetings would be October 26th and December 10th. Obviously, after the legal specialization examinations, our staff will be heavily involved in the legal specialization grading process through the months of December and January, excuse me. And I think that's it, right? Next slide.
Take a drink of water, Amy.
I know.
That's the end of this portion. We can, those are all our open session items. So Mark, do you want to take a break before we go to close?
Right. Why don't we take a 5-minute break? I show it's 10:37, so maybe if we start at 10:45 for the closed session.
And I'll go ahead and resend the link for the closed session to everyone as well.
Okay. And Ken, can you just confirm, do we have to make a motion to close the open session?
Well, we're coming back to open, right?
Yeah, so we have to keep, open stays open until it gets closed and we come back, so that nothing has to happen right now.
Okay.
Okay. So is 10:45 good?
That's good.
And do we come
Alrighty.
back to this link or do we go to the new link?
You have to go to the closed session link. Janelle's going to resend.
Okay, thank you.